The Culexus is a psychic blank that can completely disrupt the psychic phase. Today on Tabletop Titans, me and my friend Shane are going to show you how to completely shut down all psychic with this model and even make it work in matchups where there's no psychers on the table. The Culexus Assassin is the one that's changed the least with this new White Dwarf release. It's still a fantastic assassin and really one of the best, but I think it actually became a lot harder to use. The main idea behind the Culexus has always been as a psychic blank, as a null, something that really hurts all psychers on the board within 18 inches. It's a -2 to cast and -2 to deny. But it only used to affect enemy psychers. But this abomination ability that it has now affects all psychers within 18 inches. And this is actually a pretty big change to how you would use the Culexus.
Yeah, before the Culexus Assassin was great because he allowed you to boost up your own psychers to better your chances of causing a deny because they were stackable. But now he actually affects your own psychers deny. He minuses your own psychers deny chance by -2. That is something to be very aware of, and don't get caught out at a tournament if your opponent says that it only affects enemy psychers. This is a big change, and it's a subtle one.
It can work really well, especially when you might be using something that has a deny ability, but isn't a typical psycher. So there's lots of abilities that can allow you to try and deny powers, but don't require you to have a psycher on the board. This way you're not hurting your own psychic output, but you can still have a chance to deny with the Culexus. Things like the Custodes Warlord trait are good examples of that. But there's others.
Yeah. So the Culexus Assassin, while most other assassins are offensive monsters, his main strength is his defense. His special rule, Ethereum, allows him that any attacks targeted towards him is treated as weapon skill or ballistic skill 6+. That means you're only hitting him on 6s. Why this is affected by hit modifiers and negative hit modifiers, whereas this makes the assassin extremely durable.
Yeah.
While requiring a vast amount of firepower to get him off objectives with 5 wounds and a 4-up invuln save, you'll find out he hangs out through the whole game. This makes him an excellent choice for holding backline objectives.
Yeah, even when you don't have any psychers, just the ability to have a single model that could sit on an objective all game, that can be really critical, right? And having it so hard to remove. I know me as a Tau player who can only shoot at these things, they can be a nightmare to remove. And you can end up wasting a whole shooting phase and not take them out.
Yeah.
Like all the assassins, the Culexus got 2 new stratagems. Both of them are actually pretty impressive. One of them has the potential to be very game-changing. And I actually really think that while the Culexus itself hasn't changed much, these stratagems change what the Culexus is for quite a bit.
Yeah. So first we'll tell you about the lesser of the two. So Pariah's Gaze. For 1 command point, this increases the damage on the Animus Speculum to D3 damage over 1 damage. This allows the Culexus Assassin to do what it's meant to do, kill psychers. This allows him he can deep strike in 9 inches away or 18 inches away from a psycher. This Animus Speculum siphons off the warp energy and increases its shot output to D6 rather than D3. And so when he shoots at the psycher, he has actually a pretty good chance of killing it in just 1 go.
Yeah.
It's nothing fancy, but it just increases his output and allows him to just kill that psycher, pull off it, and then use that stratagem to gain command points back for killing a character. It's extremely useful, and if you have the command points and need that extra kill, it's worth using.
Yeah, absolutely. The ability to just pick off that psycher when you come down, or even just move up the board is pretty crucial. And unlike the other assassins, this one doesn't have to be scared of getting too close, because a lot of people just don't have what it takes to deal with it if it takes 6s to hit it. Well, that stratagem is actually pretty good in the right situation. This next one is also very situational, but it is absolutely devastating in that situation.
A game changer.
Absolutely. So for 2 CP, at the start of the fight phase, you can play Soul Horror. And what this lets you do is all enemy units within 3 inches have to fight last, even if they charged. Now, if they have an ability that lets them fight first, they just kind of fight as normal. And this can be really crucial. Imagine on your starting line, you have a Culexus there, and you're able to kind of put them right near the front where a unit would need to be charged. And then you have a big unit that wants to charge them up front. That unit could get wiped out before it even has a chance to do anything.
Imagine characters coming in like the Smash Captains, a unit of boys, Gene Stealers, all coming in and having to be forced to fight last. A lot of these characters need to do damage before they hit back, as their main defense is a good offense, and the Psychic Horror allows you to shut it down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially against big squads, right? Because if you've got a small individual model, it's going to be able to kind of charge and stay outside of 3 inches. But when you've got those big squads that need to get a lot of coverage, it's really hard to get them out. We'll show you an example of how to make that work.
Yeah. Especially as all the assassins are character, you can heroically intervene and get your Culexus into combat where you need them to be. You just keep them behind your front line or protect key units.
Yeah. The most common example of how to use the Culexus is as a powerful psychic screen. In this example here, we've got a Death Guard army with a lot of psychic support, Mortarion and 3 casters against our Salamanders here, and they would normally be very susceptible to the psychic powers coming in from here. But having our Culexus here up front and being very careful about how we push back some of our Salamanders will actually make this psychic phase pretty ineffective. Now, every one of these enemy psychers is in 18 inches, so they're all going to suffer from the -2. And normally, they would want to smite pretty aggressively against me. But of course, because he's the closest model, they can't affect him with any of their smites. And if they want to cast some of their other powers, let's say like Miasma of Pestilence, which gives Mortarion a -1 to hit, that's a pretty critical spell. It's normally cast on a 7, let's cast on a 9.
And yeah, it makes it less likely. You only have a 4th chance of actually getting that off now.
Yeah, it's really terrible. And a lot of the other psychic powers that they have that do damage, they have ones that can target not the nearest. They're not really that strong compared to Smite, and they're still getting a lot harder to cast. So instead of being cast on 5 and 6 and 7, they're growing up by 2. So that can be pretty devastating for an army like this.
So the Culexus Assassin is mainly a defensive assassin, but he also packs a punch on his own. Oh, now that he's within 18 inches of enemy casters, his gun actually becomes pretty dangerous. Yes, where he's able to snipe out these characters, and if you use Pariah's Gaze, now it goes to D3 damage. So that's D6 shots, Strength 5, -4, D6 damage. If you don't have an invul save to protect your caster, like most librarians don't, he could pretty easily kill one in one turn.
Let's give it a shot.
All right.
So we've got 3 casters here, 2 Malefic play casters and 1 Chaos Sorcerer. Chaos Sorcerer is probably the easier target here. He's T4, and he's the one with Warp Time and Prescience anyway. So let's say we'll go for him.
All right, so we get, 5 shots. That's pretty good. It's more on the higher end, so we've got 5 shots hitting on 2s.
Okay,
all
right.
right.
With 1. It's a good start.
All right, winning on 3s. That's 3 hits. Those all go through because it's -4, and a Chaos Sorcerer only has a 3-up save. So
3d3.
3d3 is
that's 5.
5 damage.
One
kills
more
him
than you
outright.
needed. Yeah. So we've just taken out this sorcerer, and we still actually have our Psycho Grenades. And they can do a little bit of extra damage as well. So in this example, not only were we completely able to shut down the Psychic phase, remove all the damage from the Psychic phase, but we were able to then safely pick out another one of these Psychers pretty easily for 1 CP. And we'd be able to do that pretty consistently. These Psychers wouldn't be safe. And if they're moving back, then they're out of range for their spells. If they're moving close, you're going to take them out and remove their effectiveness. So against some psychic heavy armies, this is a really critical play. And because you get to sideboard this assassin, you get to choose when to bring it.
In this example, we have some boys pop out of a building denying Overwatch from these Intercessor veterans. They have the weird boy who cast Warpath on them. This would easily overwhelm this unit, but unknown to them that the Culexus is hiding amongst their ranks.
Now, the Culexus has one of its best new stratagems. For 2 CP, we're going to use Soul Horror. That's going to allow us to make every unit within 3 inches of the Culexus fight last. So even though these Orc boys charged and this weird boy charged, they're going to fight after the Culexus and after the veteran intercessors. That's going to make a huge difference in this combat. So we're going to pile in with our veteran intercessors, and they're going to fight first. Normally, these guys only have 2 attacks each, but the veterans have 3 attacks each. This is an enormous number of attacks coming in at these boys.
So allowing the intercessors to fight first, we were able to take out 10 of the boys, and using the Culexus and the Sergeant, we were able to kill the weird boy. This greatly reduces the incoming attacks from the Orcs because it reduces their numbers below 20. That now on average dice, they will not be able to overcome this Intercessor squad, allowing the Intercessor squad to push through them.
Yeah, the Intercessors might only lose 2 or even 3 models if they went really hot. And this gives us the advantage because now it's our turn coming up next. We'll be able to continue to chew through these. And we could see how this Culexus alone turned the tide of this particular combat. And additionally, if there was even more combat characters in here on both sides, right? Imagine some Space Marine characters and some Orc characters. Those could be very painful trades where our characters get to take theirs out first. So this was really only a small example of the power of the stratagem.
So most people think of the Culexus as a psychic defense, but he is actually one of the most defendable models for holding those objectives that are out in the open that no cover around, but he can really dig in and he's really hard to push off points. Some armies like Tau have a hard time actually contesting objectives, so the way they play the scoring game is by killing the other guy. But we'll show you that the Culexus can actually hold out even against the Riptide, which is one of the Tau's most dangerous models.
Absolutely. So for me, I'm always scared of the Culexus. I don't have any Psychers, but it's a really big problem for me. So I've got this Riptide here, normally hits on 4s. Unfortunately, it's going to be hitting on 6s. I've got 18 shots from this heavy burst cannon, and normally this takes out anything I pointed at. Let's see how it does against this guy. Okay, so 3 6s. That is perfectly average here. Okay, now we've got strength 6. We're going to be wounding here on 3s. Okay, 1 wound. We've got a 4-up invulnerable save. He made it.
He made it.
So no damage. And I do have 8 more shots. Unfortunately, I doubt these are going to get the job done, but we'll take everything we can get. Oh, there's another 1. Strength 5, wounding on 3s. All right, we failed to wound. So this Culexus just soaked up an entire shooting phase from 1 Riptide. In fact, in my previous experience, it could take 2, 3 Riptides or even a whole unit of broadsides to maybe take him down. And that's way too much shooting for me to sacrifice as a Tau player. And so often I just have to let him sit there the entire game. And in an ITC mission, not only is that scoring a point, but often it's a behind enemy lines or a recon. So this lone model ends up getting my opponent something like 6 to 10 points in an entire game. And that's a huge swing for me.
This Culexus Assassin, he's fantastic for in like the ITC model for getting those behind enemy lines and going off to some remote thing in the board. So even if they don't have Psychers, he is one of the best models for scoring because it takes a significant amount of firepower just to kill him. And he's always going to be a problem. He can dart around. He's fast. He's small. Oh, he's good at hiding. So don't think of him as your assassin or win the game by killing the enemy. He's the one that wins it by outscoring your opponent.
Absolutely. So I love playing my Custodes jet bikes, but one of the most difficult things to come up against is an army like the Eldar, who has abilities like Doom and Jinx. Those 2 powers alone can wipe this entire bike unit off the board. And this is like a 1,200 point bike unit. It's my whole army, basically. And I can't have 2 psychic powers ruining it for me.
Eldar, we know, are very powerful Psychers in their own right, with a lot of tricks to make sure that they get their powers off. They have Runes of the Farseer, which allows them to re-roll one of the dice, or both of them. Or if they have a nearby Warlock nearby, they can make a Seer Council, which allows both Psychers to get +1 to their rolls. But now, as Imperium players, we have a few tricks of our own. So we're going to show you an advanced tactic that, using the Culexus Assassin, that'll make it so you can shut down Eldar in the Psychic phase, is, as you see that the Psychic Abomination rule allows you to -2 to casting rolls and deny rolls. Normally, that will hurt you if you're trying to deny, unless you don't have the Psyker keyword, which is, there are some Warlord traits out there, like the Custodes Impregnable Mind, that allows you to make denies like you're a Psyker, but you don't have the Psyker keyword. This makes it so you're not affected by the -2 to your deny rolls, but the enemy Psychers will be. That makes their powers a lot harder to get off.
Yeah, in this case here, we've taken Impregnable Mind on my Shield Captain on foot in the center. He's right next to the Culexus here. And we have a Warlock and a Farseer over here within 18 inches. So they want to get Doom and Jinx off here. And those powers are already fairly tricky to cast. But in this case, let's just see what the casting would look like. If you want to try to cast Doom first.
Yeah. Normally you need a 7 to cast that power, but now with the Culexus nearby, that goes up to a 9.
And we're going to take it down to an 8 with Seer Council. Okay, so we got a 7. This would normally have cast this power pretty easily, actually. But now it actually fails. So the Farseer here has the opportunity to reroll this too. Let's see what it can get. Okay, so we got an 8 here. This actually gets the power off, but only just. But now we have the chance to deny, right? And so this casting roll of 8 is actually reduced here to 6. And the +1 makes it a 7. So we need a 7 to deny. Now, thankfully, the Impregnable Mind actually gives us +1 to deny here. So we actually only need to roll a 7 here. So here we go. We've got a 7. It was pretty average on 2 dice, and we've managed to deny this power here. So you can see here we've really been able to shut down this power. They would have failed it pretty quickly, but now we've also been able to deny it. Gives us a 3-point difference in our advantage over them. We can deny it +1, they cast it -2. That's a pretty big advantage for us. Against psychic heavy armies like Thousand Suns or Eldar, the Culexus can single-handedly win you the game. But even when you just need to tar pit a critical unit or hold an isolated objective all game, the Culexus is the right choice for your army. Thanks for checking out our Assassins Overview video. Don't miss out on any of our 4 Assassins Tactics videos, and please subscribe to the channel to not miss any of our upcoming 40K Tactics content.